The echocardiographic assessment of the left ventricular diastolic function is a complex task. Many mechanisms contribute to the LV diastolic function, all leading to an increase in the LV filling pressure. During diastole, the pressure inside the left ventricle is less than 12 millimeters of mercury. In case of diastolic dysfunction, the filling pressure increases, although it remains much lower than the systolic values. Is it possible to detect diastolic dysfunction with echocardiography? How to do? In the case of the assessment of the systolic function, everything is simpler. The ejection fraction, a single parameter, is sufficient. It already expresses by itself the systolic function. In the case of diastole assessment, everything is more complex. Except in few cases, there is no parameter that alone can express the state of the diastolic function. Many echocardiographic parameters are involved in a complex association each with others. This is the reason why the echocardiographic evaluation of the LV diastolic function has been a complex task for many years and a challenge that had pushed me to create these teaching tools that I shared on the internet. Then this document has been published. It was 2016. This was followed by the 2022 update. In this paper, the logic of the decision-making algorithm was introduced, although with certain limitations, which I will explain later. The reliability of the decision-making scheme is supported by scientific evidence. Let me explain it to you. It starts with the evaluation of the systolic function. If it is preserved, it continues in one direction. Some echocardiographic parameters are evaluated, which will be examined later, and from the combination of their behavior, diagnostic conclusions are drawn. Another route is followed in case of depressed systolic function. The decision-making scheme is more complex, but the logic is similar. That is, a series of echocardiographic parameters are examined and diagnostic conclusions are drawn from the combination of their behavior. This is a short summary of the decision-making scheme to be applied with some reservations that we will examine later. This is the algorithm. I would like to focalize 3 points. First, it takes into account up to 9 different echocardiographic parameters. Second, it is a complex scheme both to memorize and to put into practice. Third, it is scientifically validated. It means that if applied correctly, it provides rather reliable diagnostic results. I had an idea. Together with my nephew Enrico, an engineering university student, we decided to create a calculator in the form of a web app, a solution that works regardless of the operating system in the hardware, computer, tablet or a smartphone. Professor Miguel Angel Garcia Fernandez liked the prototype, and we accepted his invitation to make a free-charge Spanish language version for the SEIC Society. An online event was organized with the participation of Garcia Fernandez and Forteza Alberti to present to the SEIC scientific community the calculator called with my and my nephew surname. The Spanish Scientific Society makes the calculator available free of charge to all. With Enrico, we decided to create the Italian and English version. Scan the QR code or type the address and try it out. This is what the calculator looks like on a smartphone. Let yourself be guided and enter the data as it asks you. The decision-making scheme begins with the systolic function of the left ventricle and then gradually asks you for the data necessary to reach a diagnostic conclusion according to the decision-making algorithm. A brief summary. How many echocardiographic parameters are required? Depends on, sometimes 3 or 4 are enough. The global longitudinal strain is always optional. Sometimes up to 7, sometimes up to 8, up to a possible decision-making junction that requires the strain of the left atrium. A brief summary of the echocardiographic parameters that may be involved. The LV systolic function expressed by the categories preserved or depressed. The mitral valve diastolic flow sampled with pulsed Doppler. In particular, the two numerical parameters wave E and wave A. The velocity profile of the mitral ring sampled with tissue Doppler. The peak velocity of E' wave of both the septal annulus and the lateral annulus. The end systolic volume of the left atrium, which is calculated by biplane method and then indexed for the body surface. The tricuspid valve regurgitation flow sampled by continuous wave Doppler. The peak velocity value. And finally, to solve a specific decision-making junction, you need the reservoir strain value of the left atrium. The calculator helps us to apply in the clinical daily practice in a complex decision-making scheme and reach a diagnosis respectful of current scientific validation. All this with some limitation that we must take into account and examine. The algorithm is not applicable in case of atrial fibrillation, left bundle branch block, cardiac resynchronization therapy, right ventricular pacing, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, severe mitral valve disease, mitral valve repair or prosthetic mitral valve, high output heart failure, LV assist device. How to proceed in these cases? Also in this case, the answer is complex. It is not implemented in this calculator, and you can find it in this article.